Hola, SAP developers. Thank you for joining us today. Today we have a special expert session where we have Harry from Solace, which is the technology that powers SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh, and he will talk to us about the design first event-driven architectures approach, which basically revolves around Event Portal and how you can end up defining your events before you start actually exchanging events. And what's very cool about it is that he will also show us how you can basically propagate your designs for your events between different sub-accounts. So having like a single event mesh, advanced event mesh that can sort of manage that and basically propagate those components from all the way from a development environment to a QA system, for example, to a production system, and how you can basically do all of this. So, hola, Harry, over to you.
Hi, thank you for having me here, Antonio. I love being a part of these webinars from SAP because it's an amazing place to reach out to SAP developers who want to adopt event-driven architecture using the advanced event mesh. And that's why I'm here to talk about how to use design-first approach to get success with your EDA adoption and AEM adoption, of course. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks. So shall we get started off?
Yeah, definitely. Let's go.
So, I have a few slides which talk about why event-driven architecture in the first place, or why design first in the first place, and then we'll go off to the hands-on part. I promise to keep the slides really short, right?
Awesome.
So while we talk about EDA and event-driven event-driven architecture and advanced event mesh, there are quite some challenges that enterprises how do you run into when doing this adoption, right? And I would like to walk through some of them. So the first one is event discovery.
You're not.
So yeah.
Just sorry, you're not sharing your screen.
Oh, I'm not. I thought I did. My bad.
You were
Okay.
before when we were doing our test.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can see
So
it now. We can see it now.
yeah.
Excellent.
So some of the common challenges that enterprises usually run across into while starting off their EDA and advanced event mesh adoption. So the first one is event discovery. So what kind of events exist in our system, right? Who is publishing what event? And interestingly, when you have a long-term adoption, you will inevitably run into versions of different events and applications. So what application is publishing what version of an event, and who is consuming it, right? So you can know what is the impact of a change in a downstream application. Second, schema management. So who is publishing what, and what does this event contain, how it is structured, how do you have validation of whether the events that are being published are in compliance with the established or the released schema. So essentially a contractual obligation between the publisher and the subscriber, right? Thirdly, who is consuming an event? What is the impact of a change? Now that I said before, who is publishing an event and what version of it? And if I change a field in my payload of version 1.5 of my event, which are the downstream applications who are going to be impacted? What is the impact? Are they going to completely break, or are they going to be able to keep working with an old version, etc. Right? So you'll have to identify these dependencies. Visibility and debugging. How do I trace an event flow? Where did it fail? So especially in the runtime, when you say an application has produced 10,000 events per second, but the consuming application says I'm receiving only 500 of those 10,000 events that you're supposedly publishing. I don't know where it's going wrong, but I am doing everything all right on my side, right? And this is a common statement that comes on from all the places. So the publisher side, the consumer side, the platform team, etc. Right? This is essential, especially with the whole distributed nature of event-driven architecture. It's very essential that you can have proper visibility and debugging capabilities built into your EDA applications and flows. Governance, how do we enforce standards? So while it's essential that developers and development teams have the right amount of leeway and independence to innovate, to adapt new use cases, to integrate new systems, etc. There is also a need for enterprise governance with respect to what is the standard that you're publishing to? What are the bounded contexts? Who can publish certain events? Who can consume certain confidential information? If you are designing domain-driven, if you are using domain-driven design, what are your bounded contexts? How do you exchange events between two different domains and things like those, right? And this is critical to have a long-term success with AEM adoption, because a good design ensures and a good governance ensures that you will run into potential fewer problems at a later stage. And lastly, documentation. Where is the documentation? Is it up to date? EDA is relatively new in the sense that it's not as established as OpenAI specific REST application or REST integrations or with OpenAI specifications, etc. We do have async API specifications for EDA applications, and Event Portal does support it, but you need to use it, right? You need to have the right tooling around to use it. You need to understand what is the one place where you can put in all this documentation, application, design, publishing and consuming events, the schemas for the events, all of that stuff. And you have to keep it up to date with as you progress through your life cycle of applications, new versions, deprecations, etc. Right? Now, let's try and see how Event Portal addresses some of these challenges, right? So with respect to event discovery, there is a feature in Event Portal called as a Runtime Event Manager, which helps in discovering and the auditing of events flowing through these brokers. It helps you identify gaps or potential discrepancies between what's in your design system versus what's actually deployed to your brokers per environment. Then, centralized schemas for versioning and validation helps bring your schema control and schema chaos and schema registries. Event Portal, in Event Portal, you can define all these schemas for the payloads and make sure that you can integrate or you can have integration with schema registries where you can have validation on the publishing and the consuming side, right? The support for the native support for schema registries is in the pipeline, but there are already support for the schema registries and the validations in the APIs itself. Even dependencies, the Event Portal supports has a visual dependency graph, which helps you in impact analysis and identifying your dependencies across different versions and different application domains, etc. Governance, you can set up enterprise standards, security, separation of concerns, integration of CI/CD pipelines into your Event Portal, and you can enforce them. You can say applications who are consuming events across cross application domains, they need to have certain approval flows enforced. You can make sure that only developers can deploy onto the development environment, but not onto integration or production environments. You can have integration with your CI/CD pipelines, etc. Right? And lastly, documentation. You can build in as much documentation as you feel that is required for your enterprise systems into Event Portal. It has excellent support for this. And lastly, Event Portal natively supports async API on multiple levels. So you can, of course, use that for documentation, for code generation, tooling, etc. So having talked about the challenges, having talked about how Event Portal helps, let's define a proper workflow which helps which is a key to success for your EDA and AEM adoption, right? So first one, start with event modeling. use Event Portal to design your architecture before implementation. And this is something I think comes very natively to SAP audience, especially with their whole focus on design first. So I think this is something that's very common in SAP and your EDA implementations, of course. So identify domains if you're using domain-driven architecture, or if not, just align them to your application teams or line of businesses, etc. Identify bounded contexts and event flows. Secondly, establish a topic taxonomy early on, right? So define and enforce topic naming conventions from day one. So I think that's one of the first things that you should do when you start off with an AEM adoption. Define a use case, define an enterprise-wide topics taxonomy. It's easier to start right in the beginning than to refactor later. And the fun thing is, while you might be defining a topic taxonomy today, it is make sure that it is simple, make sure that it is supporting your evolution in the future. And for some reason, your evolution is sort of breaking your earlier defined topic taxonomy. It's not that big of a problem. You can still refactor it, but then you will still have a lot of control and identify what exactly needs to be refactored in the first place. Thirdly, schema registries, leverage them, use JSON or Afro schemas for your event payloads as required, enforce validation at runtime on both the publisher and the consumer side to prevent bad data and poison messages. Governance and oversight. Like I said before, define and enforce configuration templates, separation of concerns across environments, and a robust CI/CD pipeline with 4I principles and all the enterprise governance standards that you need. And lastly, create reusable event patterns, build libraries of common SAP event types for consistency and across teams, and make sure that they are following these event types, and make sure that they're following these integration patterns, right? So, like I said, I promise to keep it short. I'm gonna keep it short, and this is the last of my slide, right? So, having said that, let's move on to our demo or our hands-on implementation itself. So, SAP, yeah, Event Portal has, or Advanced Event Mesh has come out with support for a new feature where you can govern and control your brokers across multiple sub accounts from a single Event Portal instance, right? And why did we need this in the first place? So like I said before, design first is something that comes natively to SAP audience and developers. So that makes sense that they started off with their event portal design. They had these designs and configuration pushes into the event portal, yes. But what about when you're propagating those configurations and those governance standards across designs, across multiple environments from development to testing, integration, and production, right? And that's where there was a gap. And it was a lot of manual effort for these enterprises. So we said, you know what, it makes sense that we have this support for SAP Advanced Event Mesh. And that's where we came across with this, right? So let me just quickly walk through the setup or the infrastructure that I have. So over here, you can see I have a development sub account. I have this nice broker, which is a development broker for map to a development instance, and it has a maximum support of 100 connections, right? So that's simple. That's enough for my development environment. Now, in my another browser in over here, and which I have to extend my session, I have an integration environment set up, I have a simple 100 broker connection as well. It's simple. I don't want to make it too complicated, right? So my development and my integration, they are supposed to be in line with each other as I release new versions of applications and schemas and events, etc. And lastly, I have in my third browser, which I have to extend as well over here, a production instance. which is an enterprise grade production instance of 250 brokers, because it's a small use case that I'm running right now, right? And all of these different accounts, sub-accounts, they have different brokers, and you can have security principles defining, okay, my development team can access my development environments as they feel free to wish. My integration, they can look, but they can't really do a lot on the broker manager itself. Production, they are not even allowed to see that broker because of security and privacy and other considerations, right? Now, um, let's walk through what we have in over here. So I'll move this out. So I have an environment over here, which is development, and I have runtime configuration auto on promotion, which means that if I deploy my configuration to the broker, I can do this natively. I don't have any approval flows or anything. And this makes sense because it's a development environment. I want to make sure that my integration, my development team is not stuck in red tape and asking for approvals, and they can quickly adopt and innovate new use cases, right? Um, for security config for governance standards, I can use things like client profiles, queue names, queue profiles, etc. So as I do that, I can enforce that my development team can only create a queue of let's say 5 GB maximum spool disk size, etc. Right now, in my runtime event manager, I have this environment, of course, again, and I have this broker that's a development EU central broker that's connected to it. And as of now, I don't have any applications or anything deployed to my broker, right? Now, going to my S4, my event portal domain designer, I have this application domain, which has these different events, which are published by an S4 HANA system. So the most common ones, right? So the business partner created, the business partner updated, ledger entries, inventories, production schedules, etc. Right? And I have defined this event flow where I have this business partner created and updated applications, events, for example. They are being consumed by different consumers. So I can have this CAP processor, I can have this iFlow or an RDP to an external system. I can have this file mesh integration, etc. Right? I can even push events to a Snowflake using a built-in micro integration, etc. Right? Now, simple. We'll really take a simple use case. So I have this consumer in over here, which consumes these business partner created and updated events. I go in, and this is my designing phase. So my developer, right, my development team, they come in, they have designed everything, they have these nice documentation, they can download async API specs, etc. Now I want to deploy this configuration to the broker. As I come to configurations, I see, okay, there are no configurations. Let's go and create some. And this is the broker or the development environment that I want to deploy them to. I define my event handling. So I'm creating a queue. I am creating a simple basic authentication. And because this is a demo, I'll just take this particular application name, right? So that's my username and that's my password. And okay. And then I say review. I say start promotion. It tells me what are the different things that I'm going to be deploying. And I say preview promotion. So what am I deploying exactly? I'm creating a client credential. So this is the client credential or the client username password that the application or the CAP application will use for connecting to the broker and consuming those events. You can have it set up to work with OAuth tokens, SSL certificates, whatever is your enterprise standard, right? Now, this is linked to an ACL profile, and ACL profile kind of defines what you can do and what you cannot do, and more importantly, what you cannot do, right? And lastly, I am creating the queue, and the owner of this queue is my client username that I just created. It has no access for anything else, and that's it, right? So it has this subscription. As I say, promote. It gets deployed to this nice broker in over here. And we are done. The configuration is on the development broker. The development team does its testing, everything is hunky-dory, and we are good to move to the upper environment, right? Now, how do you do that? Because I don't want to take away all this design, move into a different event portal, set up everything in over there, repeat the same configuration manually, because that's obviously the one way that things can go wrong while propagating across environments, right? So we want to deploy the same configuration onto the integration environment. What we do is we go to this integration environment subaccount, we go to account details, and we say account settings, and we say enable sub-account linking. So essentially this says this account or this brokers in this account can be managed by an external event portal in a different sub-account. And what this means is the event portal in this particular sub-account will be disabled because you obviously want to have one single source of truth in your event portal design. And it tells you to create this nice link code in here, right? So I have copied this link code and I'll close this and I'll go back to my environments and over here, right? So as I come in, I say environments, I'll create a new environment for a broker in a secondary AEM subaccount, right? So simple. And I'll name it as integration. And this is obviously a non-production environment, and I want to link it now. So I'll say link. You remember the code that we copied in the other sub-account? We'll paste it over here, and we'll say link. That's it. It's linked. This is the external icon that you see for associating this environment with different brokers sub-account. And if you see the runtime configuration, it marks as disabled, right? Now, we obviously want to allow propagation of configuration, but in a more controlled manner, right? So what we say is runtime configuration settings. We say, I don't want to have automatic promotion, but I want to have on-demand promotion, right? So what this means is the development team can say, I want to deploy this configuration to the integration broker or the integration environment, but the configuration push, the trigger and everything is orchestrated from an external CI/CD pipeline or an external flow, right? So let's see how this is done. So we say save changes. Once we have created an environment, we obviously want to create a runtime event manager as well, right? So we create a modeled event mesh in over here and we name it like integration again. Before we do that, we switch over to integration, obviously. We create a new modeled event mesh and we call it as integration mem, and we say create. Now, as I go in, I want to link my broker to this modeled event or runtime event manager. So I say connect event broker. It identifies my broker in the other sub account. As you can see in over here. So if I go back to custom manager, it's the same broker, right? So integration EU central, it's the same broker in over here. I say connect. And just to make sure that my connection with the broker is going through, I want to run this small discovery scan. It takes a minute or so. So yeah, we'll let that go through.
Harry, maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, but we're seeing that, for example, you are configuring in the development sub account, you linked your integration sub account, correct?
Yeah,
broker. Yeah, correct. And that's where you're going to be propagating those changes. But then, is it here that we are also going to configure the production environment, or will we do that configuration in the integration sub account?
You ideally want your a single all your design in a single event portal account. So what that means is this event portal over here in my development,
Yep.
sub-account, that's going to be my primary event portal, right?
Okay.
And that means I have integration, staging, production, all linked to this specific event portal account or this specific sub-account. And like I mentioned before, once you do this linking, you kind of disable AEM kind of disables your event portal in the linked sub account. So for example, this is an integration sub account. If I go to event portal or designer, will say that this AEM sub account has been linked to other, and because of that, event portal is designed and disabled in the sub account, right? So you have one single source of truth.
Okay,
So
nice.
to answer
Nice.
your question, yes, you would you would link your production as well to this development sub account indeed.
Okay, cool. And I
Yeah,
imagine that we're going to see that in a bit, right?
it's the same identical process.
Okay.
I can
Okay.
do that as well. So
Okay.
once we are
No,
done
not a
with the
problem.
integration, of course, we go to the deployment stage, right? So we go back to our application. We go back to our application in over here. Everything is good. We see that it's promoted onto development. It's tested. It's verified. It's completely amazing. CAP has an amazing plugin for consuming and publishing events on the AEM. It's an amazing plugin. It works very well, and we have fun, right? So we want to promote this configuration. So to the integration, we create a new configuration, and I say I want to deploy to integration, and it asks me, right? Do you want to create an existing configuration, or do you want to reuse your existing so do you want to create a new configuration, or do you want to just reuse your existing configuration, right? And you can use your existing configuration or your design, right? So I'm going to define my event handling, the same queue name like we had in the development instance. And because this is a demo, I'll just use the same configure password as well. But for production use cases or for actual implementations, make sure that you are following the security principles that you're defining with respect to the access control mechanisms like SSL, OAuth, etc. Those are the recommended ones. We do a quick review and we say promote, right? Now, preview promotion, it's the same thing that we have tested before, and we say promote. Now, when you do this, come here, you start seeing the integration broker, but the status of it is strangely, it says pending. And that's because as a developer or as a part of the development application development team, I am not allowed to deploy configuration onto the integration environment because it's not part of my CI/CD principles or my 4I principles governance standards, right? So how do you do this? One way is that you could use the APIs that are provided by Event Portal for this. Simple enough. How do you do that, right? So you start off with taking the application ID for application unique identifier for this application ID. So which is in this URL and over here. You can, of course, get it from your CI/CD pipelines as well. You can query for that, right? We have a nice API which says, given an application ID, it gives you the configuration jobs that have been pushed to the different brokers, right? So as I'll do a quick try it. Now, these APIs are secured by an bearer token, and you can create this bearer token in your event portal using token management. Yeah, so you can go over here, you can say create a token with the specific rights that are required for this, right? Now, we'll go back to this and we'll just come back to this place so that we can continue our story. Right. So if you look at the information that's getting retrieved from this API call, it says this is the broker ID, this is the application ID, this is the ID of the job, and this is in pending. This is what is the corresponding one for the integration environment. You have this one, which is for success, but then this corresponds to the development environment, right? Now, this pending one, right? So let's take the ID of this pending job. And I want to see what exactly am I going to be pushing onto this new broker, right? So if I do that, I see this configuration. which is essentially your declarative SEMP or DSEMP configuration, and it goes into a Terraform provider. You can take this configuration and you can have it as a part of your infrastructure as code or your GitHub repos for source control, etc. Right? Now, this is a configuration that is going to be pushed to the broker. It has a username and the password, so the same username and password in over here. And this is the ID. So you can, once you have this verified, you can have 4 principles that you can use for verification if this matches your governance standards, your queue templates, etc. Once that's done, you take this, of course, and you push it, right? So you trigger a push onto the broker. So when I do this, it says in progress, right? So the status changes from pending to in progress. And let's see what happens in there. You see that the status of this deployment is changed from pending to deployed already, right? Now, if you want to quickly test it out, it's very simple to do that. You go over to the cluster manager in the integration broker. You go in, you look at the broker manager, and you see that your queue, for example, the first thing, it's just created. Your ACL profiles, your client username, you have the business partner CAP processor, your ACL profile that's associated with the 0GO, that's created as well. And it has the right, the publish and the subscribe topics, etc. And that's it. So what we did is we created we created a design, we deployed it onto broker. We said, okay, you know what? I want to orchestrate my integration from my central event portal account. We linked integration broker into the same sub account. And once this integration testing is done, we can even link our production broker as well. It's the same process as before. You go in, account details, and I'll do this just for reiteration, account settings, enable sub-account linking, create link code, copy it, go back to your development instance. We say environments, create a new environment for a secondary instance. And this is a production environment, of course. So we link it. Quick thing, paste and link, and boom, that's done. And obviously, we do not want any runtime configuration enabled, or you can say, I want to have on demand as well as required. We go back to the runtime event manager. We say production, create a model event mesh. Create. Connect a broker. This is your production broker like you just saw in over here. Close. If I see my broker name, it's the same, right? So production EU Central, so EU Central, link it. And that's pretty much it. That now you can, once your testing on the integration domain is done, you can still deploy this onto production as well, right? So promote version, I see my production broker already available. Yeah. So that's the use case that I wanted to showcase. I wanted to talk to you about how you can link your different brokers spread across multiple environments into a single event portal sub account, right? Now, any questions, anything that I can answer further on this?
Well, we don't have any questions on the chat. I've been sharing a lot of links for the different things that we've been talking about. For example, even from topic taxonomy to linking environments between sub-accounts, promotions to event brokers, the CAP plugin that you mentioned, also the event portal REST APIs that you were using, and even API tokens. So everyone has all of that information available in the chat in case they want to obviously dive deeper. Now, we've seen, for example, how we are promoting the different objects to a single event broker, right? So is there do you foresee any case in which you would like to promote, for example, at least I'm thinking in a production environment maybe, that you would like to promote this to multiple event brokers, because in the end, like what is likely to happen is that we will have event meshes configured, right,
Right.
in advanced event mesh.
Yeah.
So here we're looking at a simple scenario where we only have one broker, but that's not the reality of someone that's using advanced event mesh, right? It's
Of
likely
course.
that it
Yeah.
will have a globally distributed event mesh,
Yeah.
so how will it differ from, let's say, that broker, that event configuration that's being promoted to an integration environment? How will it differ
Mhm.
to promoting it to a production environment where maybe you might need to promote it to two brokers?
Right. So this scenario that you have mentioned is not specific just for an integration, just for a production environment, right? Because even within a large enterprise, even on the development environment, you can have separation of concerns or different brokers that are assigned to different domains
Correct.
or different regions, etc. Right? But within the environment itself, you can have n number of brokers. So you can
Correct.
have all your development brokers, all your integration brokers uh, for integration environment within that specific environment, right? So for
Mhm.
example, if I go to cluster manager and I go to development, I can still create another broker in over here. That's perfectly fine.
Mhm.
So I could say APAC Central, right?
Mhm.
Uh, Google, and I say APAC, no, Southeast. So Southeast one, A, and I'm gonna Southeast 1A, the same thing. That's it. I can create the service. I can deploy this configuration to different brokers depending upon where I want it to. Now, as you go and deploy this for per environment, you
Mhm.
will see that there is a small drop down in over here. For example, promote version. So there is a small drop down in over here, right? So when you have the second broker for development created, that broker will be visible in this drop down as well, and you can specify, okay, this configuration is for this team, and the development team says, okay, I'm from the central EU domain, or this is a broker that's assigned to me, so I'm going to deploy my configuration to EU Central. I won't deploy it to the one that we created in APAC Southeast Asia 1, right? Because that's for a
Mhm.
different domain. Same thing, you can have the same configuration or the same principle for integration and production as well. And depending upon if you have to deploy your configuration to multiple brokers, you just do the same exercise once more, right? So you deploy to this, you do the whole exercise again, and that's your configuration deployed to a separate second broker. That's it.
Okay, cool. That's good to
Yeah.
know. Cool. Um, yeah, we still don't have any questions on the chat. Give me a second. I already asked what I had here on the, and you actually already answered some of the things that I have here.
Okay.
But that looks very cool.
Yeah.
In the end, it's amazing how simple it is to actually add a new environment, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's surprising how, and what's nice about it is that you are all managing everything from a single place. You have a single source of truth, right?
Yeah.
In this
Indeed.
case, your development environment is where you have everything set up, and that should be the source of truth. So people should go there in order to see what is it exactly that's being promoted. Now,
Exactly. Yeah.
and you showed us the APIs, right, on how
Right.
to actually, in essence, what you end up doing there is like you end up approving the change to go through, right, to
Exactly.
the environment.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
there any way that we can achieve that via the UI?
No, that's
Okay.
precisely the reason. Via the UI, you can say that, okay, I can deploy this automatically, yes.
Yeah.
But usually, when you have this approval workflow,
Hmm.
you want it in an automated manner. And that
Hmm.
kind of involves a CI/CD pipeline or something on those lines. That is whatever is relevant to that particular enterprise. But you also want to make sure that you have that source of truth as the infrastructure as code, that GitHub repo, for example, that contains the queue configurations and the configurations that have been deployed for that particular change, right? So you want to have that tracked. So that's one. But there is one part where, and I don't have a setup for that one, but what you can do is, if you have multiple application domains, and you have some events in application domain B, which are kind of private events or confidential events, you can have an approval workflow set up for that access, right? So you can say, for example, just let me see if this thing is up already. No, but let's use a separate flow, right? So for example, I'll go to this and I'll create a configuration. I'm gonna do this, event handling, access control. Again, I'm very keeping it simple. Go away, review, start promotion. And when I do that, preview promotion, you see this over here, which says send request, right? This request would go to the manager or the owner of that particular application domain, and it would say, I want to promote this change to the broker, where I have access to this particular event, and I want to access it. Can you please approve or decline my request, right? So I can send a request, and that will go through for approval as well. So if I send that request, it's a promotion requested. So I should see something in over here, but like it said, I won't be able to approve or disapprove my own request. But somebody else from that account, they should have a notification where they can say, yes, I approve this request deployment. Yeah.
Okay,
So you can
very
do
nice.
that.
Okay, yeah. So that basically answers the question. That's very good.
Yes, indeed.
We actually have one question here from Siva. Siva says, can we deploy the configuration file for the entire domain in an environment and do the promotion at once?
So when you mean all the applications, all the queue configurations spread across all the different events and applications, no. Why?
No.
Because these configurations, they are really on the application and on the version level, right? So, and you ideally don't want to do a big bang implementation, because it would be very difficult to revert something in case one single application fails somewhere, right? So you essentially want to break down, or you want to have structured and controlled deployments where you say, this application, this version, I am going to make this change in my application, and that has this relevant impact on the queue configuration or the broker configuration. I'm deploying it together. So if you revert that particular version, you can revert that broker configuration change as well.
Okay. So that answers Siva's question. So thank you very much. I'm just thinking about no, that doesn't apply here. No, I'm just thinking, for example, in if there is any way of I don't know, normally with other products, right? There's people that actually like including within. It's obviously not something that you end up suggesting as a topic taxonomy, because I just checked the topic taxonomy best practices that you have, for example, and there's no mention whatsoever of something like an environment there, But like I know, yeah, exactly, and I imagine that that's on purpose, right? Because, and I'm just thinking, like I remember seeing, for example, all the products that you will end up even including maybe like a system name, in the topic. And if you include a system name, that will obviously vary between environments, right? So let's imagine that someone, by some reason, they end up including in the topic taxonomy something like a system name, and which is something that will end up varying across environments, right? Is there any way that we can set up variables, for example, for something like that? At least, because in the end, like if you end up promoting a queue, creating a queue, right, and that subscription there, in that subscription, you end up specifying a topic path, right?
Mhm.
Is it possible to set up variables there or not?
So, to begin with, one of our recommendations is don't put in explicit recommendations, actually, is don't put environments in your topic taxonomies, because it makes this kind of promotion kind of very difficult for you, right? Because you will have to
Yeah,
make sure that you go, as you deploy from dev to integration, you have to change that environment name, or you have to make sure that you're propagating it properly, or you have to do manual changes, or you have to do some kind of automation script or something. And these are kind of the small recipes that lead to big disasters and big debuggings, right? And you'll run into this multiple times. Having said that, is there any way to put up variables and names for queue subscriptions, etc.? No, you can't put up variables, but what you can do is you can put up a wildcard placeholder which says anything with a star in this particular level, which has the system name or the environment, is fine, right? That's what you can do. But
yeah.
again, the best practice is don't put environments or system applications or values which will vary across different environments in your topic taxonomy.
Yeah, and you're right. Like it actually
Yeah.
says in the documentation, don't
Yes.
include deployment environment names in the topic hierarchy.
Yes. We
Fascinating.
make sure that we
That's very good.
specify that very explicitly.
Yeah, no, that's very good. That's very good. Yeah, and you're right. You shouldn't be. It should be agnostic of
Exactly. Yeah.
your of what you are where you are. Now we
Yeah.
do have two more questions, so let's
Sure.
sort of address them now. So the first one is says by Sanjeev, is
Mhm.
there a way to disable the promote button when the approval process is needed?
Yes. So if you go into environments and you say runtime configuration and you say, I don't want any kind of deployment configuration for this because I'm going to manage it outside of my of my event portal account, right? And it can be integration with a Terraform provider, for example, right? Where you say I'm going to get these configurations, or I have configurations from integration. It's tested and verified. I'm going to use that same configuration for my production. I'm not going to do anything in over there. Yes, you can say that, save it, and you will never be able to request any kind of deployment on the production from the event portal account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. So Sanjeev has a follow-up question, which
Uh-huh.
is sort of related to all this. So it says, is there a way to define dependency between environments? So for example, the integration deployment should be finished and approval done before production deployment. So I imagine that basically that you can define your promotion sort of path, that it first goes to the
Right.
development, then integration, and only then, and once it's approved, and only then go to production. So not something that you can end up pushing from it's in development and then all the way make it to production. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, but that would be something that you do outside of the event portal and the SAP instance, right? It will be something that you do on your CI/CD pipelines or your configuration management or your approval workflows that you have within your enterprise. You can have I think the simplest way is that you should have a check mark which says the developer commits to saying, I have deployed and tested this on integration. Or you could make it a bit more complicated or a bit more robust. You could say, give me the job identifier or whatever from the integration, so that I can validate that it has been deployed and everything in integration and approved before you can trigger off a production deployment, right? Something on those lines. It depends on your enterprise standards or enterprise process, but yes, you can integrate something. It will have to be outside of SAP and AEM as well.
Okay. I guess if you have a strong sort of CI/CD practice within your company, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you are so used to Terraform, and because in the end, like we saw in the API that this under the hood is a Terraform, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, so leverages Terraform. So in the end, it's like you can just yeah, put it as part of your practices in your company, and they just follow through, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the whole event portal system, it uses a hosted Terraform provider and declarative SEMP, which is kind of
Yeah.
the thing, the configuration. So all your CI/CD using Terraform.
Okay. We lost
Yeah.
you there for a bit, so it seems like your connection might be
Oh,
having a bit of
my
an
bad.
issue right now. No, that's okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
yeah, it
No,
does say it's
but
such. Yeah.
we did get the gist of it, honestly.
Sure. Okay.
And one last question from Sanjeev.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it is, lastly, is there a way to understand what version of deployment is available in which environment? So you know how for the different events you can end up defining different versions. So I imagine like, okay, I have V1, V3, for example, in development, V2 in integration, and V2 in production, for example, maybe. I don't know.
So indeed, you can say, let's say duplicate version, and I am
Mm-hmm.
calling this as 0.02. I save
Sure.
this, and I can automatically see that I see only the latest version
Mm-hmm.
on my event portal designer tool. I go in and here I see that my 0.01 is in draft. It has been deployed onto integration. When I go to my 0.02, I see, well, it has been deployed, nothing, right? So it's not deployed anywhere, but it does have configuration for it. So I can say that, yeah, create a new configuration maybe if it's required. Or I can simply say promote version. I can use this, preview promotion. I can do the same thing, right? I can request for
Yeah.
deployment, or I can simply promote it because it's development environment,
Yeah.
and it's deploying the configuration and it's deployed, right? So
Mm-hmm.
typically you will have 0.01. One thing that we didn't do right is that we didn't change the state of this version, right? So ideally speaking, it should be not in draft, but it should actually be in how do you say it? Close before I do this. It should be released,
Mm-hmm.
ideally. So if I go in over here, I say manage lifecycle state, of course. I
Mm-hmm.
want to release this, right? So I release this, but it does have other dependencies, for example, with this version of events. So I'll have to go and release that version of the event, which in turn will have a dependency on the schema. So I'll have to go and release that schema version into the release, move that into the release state. So it takes, the event portal does take care of that semantic versioning and life cycle of events. So it makes sure that you don't go to production with an event schema which is in the release or the deprecated stage, right? So
Okay.
that's always useful to have in there.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
Yeah. That answers our question
Perfect.
very well, I would say. Now, I might end up getting a bit picky here now. So
Okay,
if you go back
sure.
to the S4 HANA domain,
Hmm.
so this graph, I love this
Yeah,
graph, by the way, how you see
wonderful.
like coming from all of that. Now, is there a way to view in a graph view
Hmm.
what's in the different environments?
That's a nice one. Yes, you can, but not on this screen, right?
Okay.
Because what the screen is, it's the design intent or the design
Yeah.
time, right? So this
Mhm.
is essentially what you have designed or what you want to achieve in your end-to-end flow. But as you are deploying applications to your different brokers or your runtime, you have this runtime event manager that we first spoke of before, right? So the development environment, I'll just for making sure that's easier to show, I'll say show all resources and environments. So in the development environment, I have a broker that's associated with it. I go here and I can see that, yes, my this
Okay.
application is publishing or subscribing to the business partner created and the business partner updated 0.01 version, right? Now, if I want to, this is really in the runtime. So this is the configuration that has been pushed onto the runtime. Now, if I want to see what happens over here, so if I go and say, okay, configuration. So this application, it just pushes a lot of those events, right? And it doesn't have any subscriptions or it doesn't have any consumers in it. So if I go and create a configuration and I say development, define event handling, it doesn't have any events, consumers. I want to have access control, of course. I say basic and I say SAP S/4HANA. Go away. Review, start promotion, and preview promotion. So you can see what it does. It creates an ACL profile, which has all these published exceptions, which says, yes, you can publish these events. I'll promote it. And it's done. So if I go back to my runtime event manager in my development environment, it says that, yes, you have S/4HANA, which is publishing all these different events. And you have this one single application, which is consuming these events, right? So this is your runtime configuration, and this is your runtime actually being reflected on in a graph.
Exactly, and this is exactly what I was. Obviously, use different terminology, but yeah, this is exactly what I'm interested in. Look, like we have this S/4HANA system. This S/4HANA system can create all of this. This is the event that we have in this. And this is my consumer, and this is what's using. So yeah, fantastic.
So
I like
again, that is a small difference, right? So this is what it is designed to do. Yeah, but this is not real time, or this is not actual. It can be, I can design a lot of things on paper, but this is what it is actually doing, or this is what the broker can actually support, right? So as long as you have the S/4HANA that's connected and publishing, the broker will accept those events automatically.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. Sounds good.
Wonderful.
We don't have any additional questions here. So yeah, I just want to thank you very much for this very insightful session. I would say I learned a lot about Event Portal itself. How promoting to the different environments works, how to link different sub-accounts. So easy. It's amazing. And I'm sure that our viewers also learn a lot from it. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And
thank you for having me here.
Yep.
Thank you for having me here. It has always been a pleasure, and it has been like wonderful experience talking about Event Portal and how you can do design first in this. And thanks for all the questions, of course.
Yeah, excellent. Stay tuned, because we are planning on doing a couple more of these expert sessions with Harry. So
yes,
yeah, there's more coming. Okay.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Have a nice day ahead then. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.